Good morning, everyone, and we are continuing our botany course. And the, today's topic is seedless vascular plants. And seedless vascular plants are the are, so the seedless vascular plants is the kingdom that is um, reproduced by forming spores rather than seeds. So, and the most important uh, adaptation that these plants will introduce is the vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. So these tissues are used for support of the plant and for conduction of minerals for the xylem and uh, organic substances for the phloem. And depending on particular plant, one or both of these tissues will make a support. And the uh, development of the xylem and phloem enables the vascular plants to grow larger than the bryophytes, for example, because the water and organic substances can be transported to all parts of the plants. And in uh, in the northern hemisphere and uh, in the temperate environments like in Kazan, for example, the seedless vascular plants are relatively small, but in the tropics and in Egypt, for example, the uh, ferns can grow up to uh, 60 feet. So it is approximately like a 10 floor building, so that's quite uh, long. And the seedless vascular plants have true stems with vascular tissues, and also they have roots and leaves. There are two main uh, groups of seedless vascular plants: ferns and lycophytes. The lycophytes consist of three groups of the vascular plants: that club moses, spike moses, and quillworts. And there are very few lycophytes that still exist at the moment, but uh, uh, millions of years ago they were main uh, main part of the flora of the earth. And uh, the second type of ferns that is also very ancient, and they are also very diverse. So they are divided to whisk ferns because they are whisk. Uh, they are called whisk because they they are uh, they originally used instead of the whisk actually. And uh, horse tails also look like a tail of the horse, and and also the ferns are very common, still common now. So if you uh, so there are some of these at the university uh, corridor just before the botany class. And the there are two basic types of leaves: microphyll and megaphyll. And microphyll is usually small and has a single vascular strand, that is single vein, and microphylls are evolved from small uh, extensions of the stem tissue. Uh, Lycophytes are the only group of living plants with microphylls. And megaphylls are evolved from stem branches, and are their most known leaves today. Megaphylls have a vein system consisting of more than one vascular strand, and uh, ferns have and seed plants that are gymnosperms and flowering plants have megaphylls. So the whisk ferns don't have megaphylls; they have like not true leaves, but ferns, other hostels and ferns, they have leaves, megaleaves. And uh, it's supposed that megaphylls evolved over uh, late Paleozoic era, and because uh, the level of the CO2 is reduced, and that lead to the development of the blade, that is flat blade, and development of the stomata for gas exchange. The large amount of the stomata allowed cells of the leaf to get enough CO2 uh, and survive during the decrease of the CO2. So the fence yeah, is uh, uh, tropic, uh, is common in tropics, uh, and they are very large, so they form trees. So in temperate regions, ferns are usually in swamps, marshes, and uh, moist woodlands. So also some ferns, so here is actually it's in the fern is in the woodland, and some species also grow in the fields and in the rocks and on the mountains. And there are some species that grow in the deserts, like in Egypt. Uh, and ferns, the life cycle of the ferns is uh, uh, have some alteration of generations. The uh, the house plants that grow as ferns that we have a sporophyte generation, and a fern sporophyte consists of the uh, uh, so this is a fern sporophyte consists of the horizontal stem, and that is called rhizome. So and it has roots and also the leaves that are called fronds. So, rhizome, roots, and frond. The fronds have two functions: photosynthesis and reproduction. Fern sporophytes are perennials, that is, they live for a number of years, and during the winter, like now, the leaves will die each autumn, and underground rhizome produces new leaves each spring. So this rhizome is actually is not frozen onto the snow, because the snow will protect it from the low temperatures. When a young frond uh, first goes to the ground, it is tightly coiled and resembles the top of the violin, so like this. And that is why it's called fiddlehead. So like the violin is a musical instrument that has this spiral end. And as the fiddlehead grows, it unrolls from the tip and expands to form a frond. So this fiddlehead will become the frond uh, later in the development. Fronds are usually compound and the blade is divided into several leaflets. So uh, and that leaflets are called pinnae. And the branch is called rachis. The pinnae form a beautifully complex leaves, and fern fronds, roots and rhizomes are considered true plant organs because each contains vascular tissues. The conspicuous plant body of the fern, the sporophyte generation, forms spores by meiosis. So the spore production usually occurs on the underside of the frond. So this is underside of the frond, and if we cut the cross sectional this leaflet, then we will see uh, fertile areas that are called sporangia. So this is a sporangia, and many species bear the sporangia in clusters called sori. So this is a sorus, the cluster of the sporangia, and the sori of certain ferns are covered by a protective membranous covering the indusium. In some species, sporangia are borne on separate fertile stalks instead of the fronds. And within the sporangia, mother cells undergo meiosis to form haploid spores. So this is a sporangium. This is a that meiosis occurs inside. The sporangium of many cells is characterized by annulus, a row of cells with unevenly thickened wall cells. As the relative humidity changes, tension develops that break the sporangium, and it opens along the thin wall cell, thrusting the spores into the air. So these spores go outside and are released. Then spores are disseminated in the air by the wind, and they can be taken to the far away from the original sporangia. And then when the spores land in a moist soil or in the cranks of the rocks, they may germinate and grow by mitosis into gametophytes. The gametophyte generation of ferns, which bears no resemblance to the sporophyte generation, is a tiny, so actually this is less than the fingernail. It's very tiny, it's green and often heart-shaped, like the so actually not the shape like the original heart, but shaped like the heart that is depicted on the chest. Hulut, you are a little bit late. So, and but this heart shape actually sporangia is uh, grows flat against the ground, and the Protalus, this is a fern gametophyte, lacks vascular tissues. It has tiny hair-like rhizoids that anchor it. So these rhizoids will stick to the ground. The Protalus usually produces both female gametangia, that is Archegonia, and male uh, gametangia, that is Archeridia. So the female Archegonium and male Antheridium are both on Protalus, and the flask-shaped Archegonia, located in the central region of the protalum, contain a single non-motile egg. Numerous sperm cells are produced in the Archeridia, and these Archeridia are found scattered among their rhizoids. The sperm cells are shaped like tiny cockroaches, and each they have many flagella, and both eggs and sperm cells are produced by mitosis of haploid gametophyte cells. The ferns have retained the primitive requirement of water to accomplish fertilization, and any thin film of water on the ground beneath the Protalus provides the transport medium in which the flagellated sperm cells swim to the archegonium. So the neck of the archegonium provides a passageway from the archegonium surface to the egg. So after a sperm cell fertilizes the egg, a diploid zygote grows by mitosis into a multicellular embryo that is actually immature sporophyte that will later will develop to this mature sporophyte. At this stage, the sporophyte embryo is attached to and dependent on gametophyte, and generally only one sporophyte clone develops from each protalus. As the embryo matures, the protalus withers and dies, and the sporophyte becomes free-living. So this is diploid protalus, and then the young sporophyte will develop from the protalus, and also it has a leaf and roots. And this is the life cycle of the fern. The life cycle alternates between the diploid sporophyte with rhizome, roots, and frond, and the haploid gametophyte protalus. The sporophyte generation is dominant and because it's larger, and it can live for several years, that is perennial. and the gametophyte dies as soon as it is successfully reproduces. So today there are very little amount of the whisk ferns. So the whisk ferns are very rare uh, plants today, and usually they uh, can be found in tropics, and they have very simple structure. There are no roots and leaves. They only have vascular stems. And the this fern is very common. It's called Psilotum nudum, and it has horizontal underground rhizome with the rhizoids and vertical uh, stems, uh, and there are no leaves because there are no vascular tissues. When the stem branches, it always divides into two equal halves, like this stem divides to this and this. These are equal. And this is a dichotomous branching. Uh, but this is not common for most of the plants, because usually when most plants will branch, one stem is larger and becomes the main, and other becomes the lateral branch. The upright stems of the Psilotum are green and are the main organs of photosynthesis, and small round sporangia uh, is also aerial stem and contains mother cells that undergo meiosis to form haploid spores. After being dispersed by air currents, the spores, which require darkness to germinate, develop into haploid protali. The protali of whisk ferns are very difficult to study because they are very small, about 2 millimeters in diameter, and they grow underground. They are non-photosynthetic and apparently have a relationship with the mycorrhizal fungi, which provide them with sugar and essential minerals. So and the next type of the ferns are uh, hostels, and this is a hostel that is actually can be used to wash the bottles. So hostels are also very old, so several hundred million years ago, and usually they grow as a trees. Uh, There are several species still survived, and they grow in the wet, marshy areas and usually are very small. And uh, the horsetails have true roots, stems, and small leaves. And the erect stems arise from the perennial rhizomes that also bear roots. Small leaves represent megaphytes, and they are fused in holes at each node. So, like here, uh, megaphytes, and the main organ of photosynthesis is the main stem. Uh, Horsetails are uh, named because some of the stems represent the horse tail of the horse, so the bushy one. And in the past, the horsetails were called scoring rushes because they were used to scrub the bottles and uh, pots. The aerial stems of horsetails are either vegetative or reproductive. Each reproductive branch of a horsetail bears a terminal cone-like strobilus. The strobilus consist of several stalked umbrella-like structures, each of which bears a sporangia in a circle around a common axis. Horsetails spores are uh, uh, will, uh, will uncoil when they dry out, and that helps them to spread. The life cycle is similar to the life cycle of the ferns. The sporophyte is the conspicuous plant, whereas the gametophyte is a minute uh, thallus ranging in width from the size of the pinhead to about 1 centimeter. The sporophyte and gametophyte are both photosynthetic and nutritionally independent at maturity. Uh, like ferns, horsetails require water and the media for flagellated sperm cells to swim to their egg. Uh, so the leucophytes uh, were very common millions years ago, and they uh, they are divided to the club mosses, spike mosses, and quillworts. So all the leucophytes have microphyll leaves. And this is a club moss. Looks like a small Christmas tree, but actually this is a club mosses, it's not a tree. And these plants are very attractive and very common in woods. Uh, so club mosses are very like to visit the clubs at nightclubs, so you can actually find some of them uh, on Friday evenings. And so the club mosses have roots, rhizomes, and erect or trailing aerial stems, and small scale-like single-veined leaves that are microphylls. Sporangia are borne on fertile leaves that are either clustered in corner-like strobili, so this is corner-like strobili, and usually at the tip of the stems and scattered in reproductive area along the stem. Club mosses are evergreen and often fashioned into Christmas trees and some decorations. Uh, because of the uh, cuteness and beautiful appearance, they are also over harvesting and are under the extinction in some areas. The life cycle of Lycopodium is similar in many like of the ferns. The both sporophyte and gametophyte are independent plants at maturity. In Lycopodium, the sporophyte is the conspicuous generation, whereas the gametophyte is a small thallus ranging from uh, about um, very small, like micro size, or up to 1 inch in length. The gametophytes are either photosynthetic or subterranean, and maybe non-photosynthetic. Like whisk fern gametophytes, the subterranean gametophytes of club mosses form a symbiotic relationship with mycorrhizal fungi that provide them with nourishment. Like ferns, Lycopodium requires water as a medium in which flagellated sperm cells swim to the egg in the archegonium. So the next one is the spike mosses. So spike mosses have a variety of forms. So they usually are growing flat, but there are also some of them are erect stems. And lycophytes have these lycophyte spike mosses have uh, long rhizomes and typically branch dichotomously. So that is branching like the whisk ferns. Their roots are produced at branching along the length of the stems, like the stems roots are branched dichotomously, and the overlapping scale-like leaves which are microphylla, have a single unbranched vein. Leaves are arranged in 4 vertical rows in many species. Each scale-like leaf produces a small, inconspicuous outgrowth on the upper surface near the base of the leaf. This structure is called a ligule. Living spike mosses are classified into single genus. They are most common in the shady, moist tropics and subtropics. Although most species grow in the moist soil, some are adapted at arid environments. The resurrection plant, for example, is native in the deserts and when the conditions dry, a species curls into a round ball and becomes dormant, but when the moisture is again available, it is resurrected. That is expands and becomes green and photosynthetic. So, uh, and the uh, quillworms are perennial aquatic or semi-aquatic herbs that are widely distributed in the fresh water. Quillworts are the distinctive. They have a comb, a short swollen underground stem. So, and cylindrical quill-like leaves that are microphylla. They will grow from the base of the comb. Roots that arise from the comb divide dichotomously, and there are no aerial stems. Like lycophytes, quillworts are spore-bearing vascular plants, and like spike mosses, quillworts are heterosporous and produce two kinds of spores: megasporangia that produce a few large megaspores are located at the base of the outer leaves, whereas microsporangia that produce many small microspores are at the base of inner leaves. So I think that is all for today, and thank you for uh, the attending the class, and see you next week.